prominent author named Andrea Bartz reignited a familiar conversation over the weekend when she tweeted about the joys of being, quote, child-free. Here's what her post said. She's first quoting people on the other side. She says, child-free people will never experience the joy of watching their child touch grass for the first time. And she responds to that by saying, okay, but do parents know the joy of being 37 and sleeping in and drinking coffee in silence and then leaving the house on a moment's notice whenever the F I want? Now, every few months we get another attempt by a childless woman, it is almost always a woman, to try and convince us that it's actually a great idea to live only for yourself and die by yourself and make yourself into an ancestral dead end, leaving behind no progeny and no legacy. And every once in a while, the woman making this case is someone other than Chelsea Handler. But whether it's Chelsea Handler or not, the argument is always effectively the same. If you don't have kids, you can sleep in, relax, drink coffee in peace, leave the house whenever you want, and enjoy conveniences and luxuries that are beyond the reach of people with children. Now, the first and most obvious response to this kind of claim is that it's simply untrue. It's a false premise. Parents can and do know what it's like to do all of those things, sleep in, drink coffee peacefully, etc. We know because we experienced those things before we had kids, and once our kids get older, we'll have just as much access to them as Andrea Bartz does. In fact, all of the luxuries she mentions really only become difficult when you have young kids. And this is almost always the case when child-free, quote-unquote, people talk about what they imagine the irritations and sufferings of parents must be. They're almost always talking about parenting young children.
Game of Thrones, man.
If your kids are, say, 10 or older, however, there's no reason why you can't sleep in or enjoy silence in your home or, even leave the house without much hassle. So if these things do fall out of reach, it's only for, in most cases, maybe a 10-year window or so. In my case, the window's a little bit longer because we have 87 kids. Still, it's not a permanent situation. And even when you have young kids, even if you have 87 young kids, you can still experience the joy of sleeping in and relaxing and so on. It just requires a little bit of planning. You have to hire babysitters. You have to get the grandparents to watch the kids so you can spend a few days just with your spouse or something. There are many ways to orchestrate some relaxation time, no matter how many kids you have, no matter how young they are. You just have to put in some effort and some planning and be intentional to make those sorts of joys available. In fact, I would argue that only parents of young kids can experience those joys, however fleetingly. Sure, a 37-year-old woman without kids can wake up late in the morning and have a cup of coffee in silence, but this is not any great treat for her. It's just her life. It's her everyday. She has nothing to compare it to. I had many quiet cups of coffee before I had kids, but I didn't find actual joy in those moments because it's all I ever knew.
If you have found so much joy, then why are you so fucking mad at other people's choices? Let them do their own shit.
You take it for granted. Yeah, I admit I don't get very many quiet moments at this stage of my life, but when I do get a single moment like that, I guarantee I enjoy it 1,000 times more than Andrea has enjoyed all of her quiet moments combined. So she has me beat on quantity, but I'm winning on quality. It's a simple and perhaps kind of depressing reality of the human condition that we can't really appreciate something unless we've experienced its opposite. Unless you have something to compare it to, you can't really appreciate it. You just can't. You can't really enjoy being full unless you've been really hungry. You can't enjoy lying in bed unless you've been very tired. You can't really enjoy walking out of the house without hassle unless you've actually experienced trying.
Can I appreciate a steak without having ate poo-poo? I can't truly appreciate a steak without ever having eaten poo-poo out of the toilet. They're not so bright, these people. Donzoki, Silvano, Nidra, Zeev, Script and Boom, Blaze, thank you man, welcome back.